So we live in a time now where one of the biggest hockey conversations following the 2025 Stanley Cup Finals has to do with the Edmonton Oilers and their goaltending. The Stu Skinner-Cal Pickard combo was kind of questionable at best, and just totally not good enough at worst. And when it comes to this Edmonton goaltending situation, there are going to be talks more so throughout the summer as to whether or not a new face is needed in town. But what if I told you that there was a goaltender that the Oilers were in on, but ultimately a goaltender who decided against signing in Edmonton and going to Detroit instead? Well, in this video, we are going to talk about why, because this goalie has actually made it known in an interview why things went the way they did. But before that, a quick word. When it comes to career changes or life changes, for the athletes we watch, or even just me or you, changes in life can lead to changes in identity. And the question we are starting to ask a little bit more is, how will this affect our mental health? This is where a therapist can come in, who will listen, ask questions, and help you see things from new perspectives. Going to therapy is a sign of strength, not weakness. And a therapist can give you advice and techniques to help make positive changes in your life. BetterHelp is the paid partner of this video, and they're on a mission to make starting therapy easier. Fill out a questionnaire and you will match with a therapist as soon as possible. Easily switch therapists anytime at no extra cost if it's not the right fit. With over 7,000 reviews and a 4.3 rating on Trustpilot, BetterHelp is a platform you can trust. Click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/lego and get 10% off your first month of therapy. That's betterhelp.com/lego for 10% off your first month. Get started with BetterHelp. So by now, if you've been following the Detroit Red Wings and their signing situations, you would have seen a few days ago that we had made a video talking about Michal Postava, the newest goaltender in Motown, who has brought his talent over from Czechia and will be trying to get a significant spot in the Red Wings goaltending pipeline this upcoming season. Now, Postava, if you wanted the scoop, we already made a video talking about him. He's 23 years old, undrafted goalie who has signed his ELC till the end of 2027, and he recently played for HC Kometa Brno in Czechia, leading this team to the Czech Championships. He had a .940 save percentage in 17 games played in the playoffs, a 10-7-0 record, 3 shutouts, and a 197 goals against, alongside of his .921 save percentage in 42 games in the regular season. Postava, at the age that he is at, was nothing short of spectacular. And this is a guy who, at this stage of his hockey playing career, has virtually nothing to prove now in Czechia. So, of course, the natural progression would have been an NHL contract. This is where we dive into some of the rumors, because we did make some commentary videos early in the season about how Postava was apparently on the radar for multiple NHL teams. We had spoken about the Edmonton Oilers, we talked about the Utah Mammoth and the Seattle Kraken, how these teams were all in some sort of a bidding war for Postava. But it turns out, the final 2 teams that were in on this inevitable Red Wing were, of course, Detroit themselves and the Edmonton Oilers. There was an article published on isport.blesk.cz, which is, of course, a Czech website. This article was posted by Michal Postava on June 11th, 2025, talking about how character after signing in the NHL. Detroit, a year ago, sci-fi, I'm counting on the farm, and Dostal advised. The article title doesn't really make too much sense. It's translated from Czech into English, but essentially this is a commentary interview by Postava, who reveals why everything went down the way it did, and how he was actually debating between Detroit and Edmonton. The unfortunate part is, this article is behind a paywall, so instead we're going over onto RedWingsInsider.com because Julian Trecker published a piece that just has the quotes here from Postava. Essentially, he talks about how he had offers from Detroit and Edmonton, but the final decision was up to him. I talked to my agent, and Lucas Dostal of the Anaheim Ducks gave me advice. He said that Detroit might be better for me. I'm happy that the negotiations with Detroit were successfully concluded. The NHL is a dream for every player, and I would like to fight for my chance. I'm grateful to Kometa for giving me a chance last season. It was a big leap for me, but now I have to deal with another big challenge. And so with that in mind, we now know that when Postava was dealing with his last decision before signing between Edmonton and Detroit, it was ultimately Anaheim Ducks goaltender Lucas Dostal who stepped in here and said, hey, it's probably better if you sign in Detroit versus Edmonton. Dostal, by the way, 24-year-old Czech goalie who is already a very good NHL player. He had a .903 save percentage this previous year in 54 games played. He was just a stud. I know that the numbers don't look all too fantastic here, but this guy could steal you games. He had multiple 900-plus save percentage games where he lost. The Ducks weren't particularly great, but turns out it was Dostal who recommended Postava against signing with Edmonton. A lot of this has to do with opportunity, and with Stu Skinner and Cal Pickard both in the mix for the Edmonton Oilers at the time of Postava's contract signing, there was an understandable way that you could formulate that opinion that Edmonton didn't really have many openings. Okay, they're going to get back Skinner, and they went to the Stanley Cup Finals 2 years in a row with this dude, and Cal Pickard is also there, so they're believing in this tandem. I think now, post-Stanley Cup Finals, it's very obvious that even though the Oilers didn't necessarily lose the finals because of goaltending, they definitely would have had a better shot if they had a John Gibson or anybody else in net versus a Stu Skinner whose overall reputation and statistical profile as of late has taken a really big turn for the worse. With that being said, Skinner is still young, and I think that plays into it as well, where Dostal would advise Postava, hey, Edmonton doesn't really have that many openings. Sure, maybe at the time Postava was thinking about it or debating where to sign. Maybe at that point the goaltending controversy in Edmonton wasn't as full-fledged as it is now. But in Detroit, you could reasonably say that there are other opportunities there. Now, there are other guys who are young and trying to fight for spots with the main team. Trey Augustine is going to be a contender, Sebastian Cossa is in there too, and Rudy Guimond, who could forget about him? But the main dudes in Detroit are a little bit older. Cam Talbot, Peter Mrazek, even Alex Lyon last season. There are opportunities for anybody to show up and put in the work to be that guy and take that top spot. It's not guaranteed that Sebastian Cossa is the number one for the future in Detroit. It's not guaranteed that Augustine is that either. So with all that in mind, Lucas Dostal, who in his own right is in a young starting position in Anaheim, it's reasonable for him to advise his fellow countrymen, yeah, there's probably a better chance to break in Detroit versus Edmonton. Thus, the decision was made. Let's go back over and read some other comments made about Postava. This is from Pavel Francouz, former Colorado Avalanche Stanley Cup winning goalie. He went out there and spoke about Postava's great season, but also put forward that the Red Wings took a bet by signing him. Postava had a great season, Francouz said. For most of the public, he was an unknown goalie from the first league who suddenly won the title. I think that even Kometa itself didn't expect what they would find in him, that he would lead them to the championship. For me personally, it was a surprise too. I really liked how he grew during the season. His performances went up. I certainly wouldn't have guessed before the start of the Czech season that he would have been the best goalie in the league. In his situation, it's going to be a lottery bet. When a goalie takes off like that, it's a good idea to wait until next season to confirm it. He has the skills, but he has to establish himself in his performance over time. I think it would be a huge leap for him to go straight to the AHL. That's the position he is expected to play, to be one of the two goalies on the farm. So interesting opposing perspective here by Pavel Francouz, speaking out how, in his opinion, it might be a little bit of a tall task to get this guy in the American Hockey League as a main dude right away. But as we had said, there was already a very good body of work he had in Czechia this previous season. It's not like he necessarily has anything more to prove over there. At worst, maybe Postava gets an ECHL stint to open up the year. a la Sebastian Cossa, we have seen the Detroit Red Wings not be afraid to take the long road in developing these goalies. Cossa, by the way, didn't really have the best start in the AHL, which is why he was sent over to the ECHL in the first place. He was always maybe a little bit too good to play there, but the fact is, he had a season there. Eventually, he was an AHL guy, and then he had an NHL game this previous season, so the Red Wings are not afraid to send guys 2 tiers down. Maybe with Postava it's a little bit different because he is 24, Kossa's a lot younger, but still, the option is there. So with all this in mind, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Postava speaking out about why he chose Detroit over Edmonton. And what are your thoughts on Lukas Dostal's involvement in this decision, advising the fellow Czech goalie that Detroit probably has a better opportunity here? What are your opinions about all that? Let me know in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.